Okay. So the background of research is coming from when we are collecting the water from all over the city in Indonesia. We have like a different type of water. For example, you can see here we have like water sample type A, type B, and type C. So this water is coming from some area in Indonesia. The problem with water A is like it has like a yellowish color, and the water type B it has like yellowish color but with some color in the water. And for the water type C, it's very clear, like just like normal water. So probably people will think that the water C is the safest, it's easy, it's safer to drink. And then we try to do some small tests on this sample. And then also we send this sample to another lab, and then we got a very interesting result. So people will think that water sample C is maybe the safest one because it's clear, it's like a normal water. But unfortunately, that water sample is safe to drink. What water B and water C is not safe to drink because of the color. So sometimes we are confused which type of water that can be used or can be drink. That's why in here we try to make some modification of the membrane. So we try to do some like research how to treat how to treat the water, and so people will have no problem in consuming the water. So people now they have many type of filtration method. The first one is like a traditional water filtration method. So normally people will just do some like boiling. They just boil the water and then they will get the boiled water will like kill the microorganisms in the water. The problem with this is like we need to more fuel, and also we need the cooking equipment. And also, when we have some particle or some chemical or some heavy metal in the water, it's going to be difficult for us to remove this from the water. That's why some other people they try to use like a chemical method. This chemical method is much easier because what you need only just like a chlorine tablet, you just put in the water and just leave it for hours, and then you will have safe water to drink. The problem with the chlorine water is that when you don't properly put enough small amount of the chlorine, it's going to be like damage your health at long-term use. That's why some people now try to use like better methods by using like a membrane or surrounding method. Okay. In order to overcome the problem coming from the boiling water, also coming from the chemical for the water purification, some researchers they're developing like a membrane filtration and then so ceramic filtration. For the ceramic filter, it's much easier compared to like membrane because it's much inexpensive, it's cheap, and also it can be used to remove the bacteria in the water. And the flow rate is quite high because just using the gravity. So I mean, you don't need electricity to run the process of the filtration. But the problem is that it's only effective against the bacteria. When you have virus in the water, and when you have chemical contaminant in the water, it cannot be used directly. So that's why we need to do some like a combination between what kind of filter that can be used to remove the water, because water is different from any area. So in order to for that, we developing a membrane that can be used to clean the water. So membrane basically they're using two type of mechanism, diffusion mechanism. The first one is molecular sieving. In molecular sieving, membrane have very small pores, and then this small pores will reject the bigger particular, bigger molecule. So it's only allowing some smaller molecule than the membrane pores to come into the membrane. The second diffusion mechanism is by using solution diffusion. So the molecule will diffuse into the membrane, and then will allowing solution to pass through the membrane pores. So when we have this membrane, so what kind of parameter that we consider that membrane is good or membrane is bad? So in the membrane world, people will have like permeability and also selectivity. So when we can say that membrane is good when we have the membrane with high permeability, also has selectivity of the membrane. And then actually membrane is not only can be used for the water treatment process, membrane also can be used for like gas purification. For example, some medical researchers they are developing the membrane for medical mask, and then they also use the membrane for separating the nitrogen and oxygen in the air. Also, some researchers they use the membrane to capture the carbon, and then they use the carbon for other applications like for extinguishing. So maybe we all know that membrane also can be used and mostly used for the water treatment process. So because by polymeric membrane, we can control the porosity of the membrane. We can control what type of membrane that you want to have. So membrane they have, it's the polymer they have like a type of membrane. The first one is microfiltration, and the ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, and reverse osmosis membrane. So if we want to remove the bacteria, so we just use the microfiltration. If you want to use the virus, you can use the ultrafiltration membrane. Okay. So membrane, they will remove the pollutant in the water by controlling the porosity of the membrane. So we can modify them, so we can do as we like, because it's much easier also to fabricate the next. I will try to explain how we can make a membrane. And then another research, they also use the membrane for medical purpose. So they are making the membrane for blood purification. When they do one, they use like a semi-permeable membrane. It's mean like they will do like a dialysis solution and also the blood solution. So they will like exchanging ion between ion in the blood and also in the blood and ion in the laser solution. And then they will have like a clean blood. Then we go back to the patient body. And some churches also they are using what we call microfilter membrane, because they can control the membrane porosity. They can make the membrane permeable, so they don't need dialysis fluid, and also they don't need pump to circulate the membrane. And then maybe we all still remember that we had problem with the COVID like 2 or 3 years ago. So we have a COVID pandemic all over the world, right? So some people they try to developing a membrane for mass medical purpose. So yes, so membrane also can be used for the mass medical purpose. We can control what kind of bacteria, what kind of virus that can be filtered from the membrane. So this is one of the applications of the membrane. And then one of the problem in membrane making is probably the membrane fabrication, but actually this one is not so difficult. There are many types of that can be used to make a membrane. One is the easiest way is by using the phase conversion method. Phase conversion method means like there is a changing phase from the liquid to solid. So when we have what we have to do in this process, we need to prepare the drop solution. So we call it the drop solution for the membrane solution. So we have like a polymer dissolved in the solvent, like organic solvent. And then once we have the solution, we just pour the solution into the glass slide of glass slide, and then we just spread out the polymer solution into the glass slide. Once we have the uniform thickness of the membrane solution on the glass slide, we just immerse this glass slide into the coagulation bath. Coagulation bath is filled with the pure water. So during the coagulation process, they will be like exchanging from solvent to non-solvent coming from the water. And just leave it for like few hours, then we will have like a nice flat sheet polymeric membrane here. And then membranes, sometimes membrane is not perfect. Sometimes we need to do some modification. Sometimes we need to put something inside the membrane, and we can improve the property of the membrane. So like a bit like 10 years ago, we are having a problem with the membrane falling. Membrane falling means like when we use the membrane for the sterilization process, sometimes the pollen, such as bacteria, like particle, they will stick into the membrane surface. When this one deposited a lot in the membrane surface, it will just like block the membrane force, and then finally it will like reduce the permeability of the membrane. In order to do this, we did some modification by using like a polydency coating, and then also by using the diamond-like carbon coating. This one works perfectly in improving the membrane performance. As you can see here, there's like some like a pollutant or some like blood stay in the super membrane without having like modification. But when we have the modified surface by using like a polyethylene or the FPLC, we have now like no spots on the super membrane here. So this system is good, this method is good, but the only problem is it needs like a high tech equipment and also very expensive. Not every lab they have this kind of particulate coating machine. Not every lab they have the FDLC coating machine. Also need a lot of money to make this material modification. Therefore, we try to do some simple modification. First, we just edit some additive. Additive can be anything. Just like for this case, we use the nanoparticle silver. We just put in still the doped solution of the membrane. And then we just make the membrane just like the basic method. And then we will have nice flat sheet membrane with the particle inside the membrane. Silver is good for bacteria because they can like modify the metabolism of bacteria, and then bacteria will not be able to duplicate and then go into the dead space for the bacteria. And then once we have the membrane, plastic membrane, we need to do some tests. So normal tests we can done here. It's very simple test. First, we need to do the water contact angle test. And then we need to do the permeation test and the antimicrobial test. So for the water contact angle test, we just drop water liquid into the membrane surface, and then we just check the contact angle of the membrane. For the permeation test, we need to have this kind of setup. First, we need to have the liquid, nitrogen gas, and then nitrogen will push the water inside the dead end shell, and there is a membrane here. And the membrane will like prevent the dirty from the water. So normally we use the pure water for the pure water flux test. And then by measuring the concentration or the volume of the permeate here, then we can see the difference of the membrane. Is it membrane good or is it membrane bad membrane? So for the microfiltration membrane will only be able to reject bacteria, but for the ultrafiltration membrane can be used for the virus as well. And then for the antimicrobial activity, we just use like a microbiology test for the membrane that's test on the surface of the membrane. So for the antimicrobacterial test, we use the same setup, but we need to change the pure water to like contaminated water, like river water, irrigation water that has so many bacteria inside the water. And for the water contact angle test, we got the result nicely actually. So by having 0.1 weight percent of the silver nanoparticle, we can have the hydrophobicity of the membrane. So this is good. I mean, when we have this very low contact angle, meaning like the water will just pass through the membrane without staying on the surface of the membrane. And then for the pure water flux test, the 0.1% of silver nanoparticle increase the pure water flux means that we can have higher flow rate compared to the membrane without the silver nanoparticle, a bit more percentage of nanoparticle. And for the antimicrobial activity, we can see here with the increase of the concentration of the nanosilver particle, there will be like a decrease in the bacteria colony growth on the membrane surface. So I mean that the silver nanoparticle work perfectly well in controlling the growth of the bacteria colony. And another simple modification of the membrane is by using whatever available in Indonesia, for example. So in Indonesia, we have like a non-woven fabric. It's commercially available in Indonesia. So we have this company in Surabaya. So it's not open like some material that used for the mask, for the medical mask. But the only problem with this non-woven is they have like a big space between the fiber and the non-woven here, like just like you can see here. So this space will allow some bacteria, also some virus goes to the membrane pores. So the only way we try to close this space is by adding some like a coating. So we control the polymer type polymer, we control the solvent, we control the concentration, and then we do some special coating technique. And then we have the thin film on the membrane surface. You can see it. So the thin film will improve the rejection of the bacteria and also the virus. So can I play the movie? I want to play this movie. Cannot play the movie. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then we actually for this membrane, we don't have the facility here. That's the problem. This is the challenging thing in Indonesia. We could make something good, but we don't know where we want to test. So we need to send this sample to Japan. So we sent the sample to Japan, and they did some experiment, they did some tests for the sample. So actually, the result is coming quite good for this. We have like BFA bacterial efficiency like 91.5%. And for the pyrophorus efficiency, like 83.4%. But this is just like a preliminary experiment. We still can improve the performance of this membrane action by changing, also by modifying the technique. And so membrane is not only just like red series, or not just like coating thing. So we can also use the membrane as a glue. So people now they are using like activated carbon powder for the for the filtration system in their home, maybe their hospital. But the problem is that the powder is there's still space between the powder. So some company they try to make the what they call carbon block. Carbon block is like the compacted one of the activated carbon powder. So they have this carbon block like this. So the only problem is this one is very difficult to make the carbon blocks. Very expensive. You need like a high temperature furnace. You need like a high compacting pressure engine to compact this carbon block. It's very costly for electrification. So we tried what we tried to do here is we use the membrane solution as a glue. So membrane will put the powder together, and then we just compress into like a shape, like a cylinder shape. Or maybe we want to change like concept. It depends on the mold that we have. So in this cone, or in this dish, the membrane will have two different jobs. The first job is they put the powder together. The second job is they act like a premium membrane. So they filter out the bacteria, the dirt in the water. So when we don't have the membrane between the activated carbon particle, you can see it. There's some are like bacteria, some virus, they will go through the space between the activated carbon powder here. So it means that the efficiency of the filtration will become very low. But when we have the membrane between the powder like this, the membrane will do like a filtration also for the bacteria, for the virus, and so for the particle in the water. So we did some filtration tests. So actually this one based on the gravity force, just like the ceramic membrane. So we just put the water in the container, and then we just leave it for like a few minutes, and then we have the permeate water here. And then we test the permeate water based on the filtration and also the total quality from here. So we had like we use like a 30% of pH solution, weight percent of the carbon active carbon, and also 50% weight percent of the pH solution here. And so we get the water sample from irrigation river in Yogyakarta, Kaliduran River. So and then we have this kind of result. So basically, by using the activated carbon, we can reject like bacteria in the virus, like bacteria in the water, like 99.9%. But when we only use carbon powder, we can only reject like 90% of bacteria in the water. We did also some tests by using iron, like a heavy metal waste, like iron in the water. So we have like a water sample like with 10 ppm of iron in the water, and then we use like a test packet from Kyoritsu to check the water the concentration of the iron in the water. So we can see here when we use the powder, we can only remove like a half of the iron in the water, but when we use activated carbon, we can remove almost all the iron in the water. So we have the flat membrane, we have the membrane for the glue, we have the membrane for medical mask. So what are we going to do next? Just flat membrane is not enough for the water filtration process. We need to do something more. So this is why the people try to utilize the membrane in order for the water filtration system. So there are two types of most people they use two types of module membrane module. We call it membrane module. So we have like a flat and frame module and the spiral wall module. For the flat frame module, it's more like a photo frame. So photo frame with the membrane on the back and on the front of the frame. So the feed is coming like a gas, also water is coming here, and then they will push through the membrane here, and then we coming out as permeate here. So then we can collect the clean air or clean water here. The only problem with this model is that it's very limited space, limited area of permeation area. So that's we don't really use it. And also we need to care about the leakage coming from the tank here. So people normally they don't really use this one. For the second one, we use the spiral one model. It's much better compared to the flat frame model. This spiral one model, we just like roll the membrane. It's coming from like a two sheet on 1 meter length of membrane and with 30 centimeter of membrane width, and then we can roll it, and then we have like a spiral model here. So the dirty water is coming here, and then due to the pressure between the membrane, and then we have the clean water inside the tube. So we have the spiral module. So what are we going to do next to get this work into the filtration system? Okay. Can I play the movie here? I need to play the movie. Cannot. Okay, okay. So this one is the movie. Yeah? It's a movie that we are doing some small experiment. So we have a humic acid solution here, and then humic acid solution, and then we use the spiral model here on the back, and then we try to draw that by using pump, and then the water is coming here, then we like the clean water here. This is but we cannot play the music. Okay. And then next we have sorry, this one. Okay. Yeah, we can play the movie. Okay. So this is the module, this is the humic acid solution, and then this is the module. And then you can see here that humic acid is going into the module, also module here. And then the spiral one module will do the job to clean the humic acid water, and then we will have like clean water here in the second bottle here. So the water is coming out from the module is very clean. So yes, you can say that the membrane is successfully clean the water in the humic acid. Okay, okay, we have this system, small system, but we need to install the system into a bigger system. So we have like a small experiment with the Panasonic guy. Panasonic is one of the biggest appliances company in Indonesia and in Japan. So we have small collaboration with them. So they have this kind of water dispenser, Panasonic one. So this water dispenser is they use normally they just like use the small water tank here, and then there's the pump, and the pump will like draw the water from the pump will draw from the tank here. But Panasonic have an idea. They want to use the filter inside this water dispenser. They already got the filter from US, but the problem is quite expensive, and maybe it's more expensive than the partial water dispenser. Then they contacted us, and then we find a solution. So we installed our filter into the water dispenser, Panasonic water dispenser here. So first, we need to draw the water from the water source here, and then we just store it in the water tank here, and then the water tank will go into the WPS, this from Panasonic, and then from the WPS it will go to the water dispenser, and then from here we will get water that's safe to drink here. Yes, I think that will be all for my presentation today. Thank you very much.